What's up? What's up? What's up? It is CJ Banks, co-host of the Hype Podcast, helping you proclaim excellence. And I am here with my co-host.
Yep, here I'm Shayna Van Dyne, and this is episode 3.
Episode 3. We are moving along.
We are.
You know, it's said that statistically, most podcasts do not pass episode 3.
I can see why. I've been messing up today a little bit.
Yeah. Come on, you're not even supposed to mention that we're doing this over.
You said this is a real, authentic podcast. I'm just letting
I don't know what
know.
she's talking about because we're not doing this over. This is the first take.
First take. Yes.
First take. So we are
one and done
here, and I am excited. We had great
Very
guests.
excited.
So we had a great guest last week, and we're even just as excited. I don't want to say more because I was super excited about Dr. Tara Giambra. I always forget the last part of it last week. But this week we have someone who is an entrepreneur. I'm not even going to go into the introduction because, Shayna, that is your area. So go ahead.
Yes, so let's introduce Tyreen Tapia.
Yay.
She is the director at Capital Management, director of operations,
Correct.
right? Yes, and most importantly, a mom of 2, and the CEO of Latinas Evolving.
Yes.
Yes.
So awesome. So happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk about a lot of things. You know, we like to have fun here. We like to, have some laughs, but also we really want to get into what makes you, because our focus is to help other people get to where they want to get to, right? Or help them get better at what they are doing or going to do. So I believe that what we talked about, and we wanted to start a podcast to help people hear other people's journeys, and we believe that hearing other people's journeys might help other people, even help me. Like, I'm always in a different path or thinking of what's next on my in my book. So next chapter in my book. So I'm excited to hear more about you. We'll ask you some questions, and then we'll have some fun, and let's get right into it. Do you want to start with any questions, or I know you want to mention about your camaraderie about being Latinas?
Yeah, Latina Boricua.
And leave me out of now. This part I'm not. Obviously,
We're not leaving you
part of-
out. We're not
yeah.
leaving you out. I told
gonna
you,
be-
you
You're an
always
ally. You're
have
an ally.
a room at the table,
I'm an
especially because
ally.
you like Puerto Rican food, so that works.
Yeah, it's always about food for me.
I know.
I think
do.
last week she made a reference about food for me. I think that's kind of shaming me.
I am not.
Listen.
Okay. Anyway.
Yeah.
No, I'm super excited to have you on. So ever since
excited
I
to be here.
discovered, everything that you're doing, everything that you've done for the community, very impressed with Latinas in STEM, just your website, the way you carry yourself. So I'm so excited to have you here, girl.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about Latinas Evolving and how did that evolve? Because there's always, I always say there's always some type of gap or challenge that something births out of. So where did that come from?
Yeah. So it started off with me just identifying a need in our community with professional development for Latinas and Latinos, period. I used to work at a non-for-profit organization that really was helping as a workforce development coordinator, was helping individuals, Latinos especially, with finding jobs and so forth. And I began identifying that there were not a lot of bilingual individuals in recruiting positions, whether it's in staffing agencies or in other agencies around the organization. And if they are working in those staffing agencies or other organizations, a lot of them are working in assistant roles instead of the actual recruiter roles, which means then that they're not getting paid the commission, right? Or maybe they do have some kind of arrangement. But there needs to be way more representation in those roles so that the community feels more able to go to those individuals. They see individuals that are relatable, that look like them and that speak like them, to go to them and feel comfortable to speak to them, to look for opportunities in the job industry. And so it started off with that, especially like during the pandemic too. There were a lot of individuals that were reaching out to me. I didn't have anything to do. I was home, so, and I still knew of jobs that were possibly hiring, like call centers were still hiring, even though it was a pandemic, because the people were able to work from home. So I still knew about positions people didn't want to wait, or that were not getting the extra funds from the pandemic.
Oh, that makes sense. So you were like translating and stuff for them? them? Or?
Yeah, or trying to help them find jobs, you know,
Okay.
tell them, hey, you know, there's still these places that are helping, you know, find jobs. Or I was helping them file for unemployment. There were a lot of individuals that ran into issues with filing for unemployment. And people were referring them right back to me, like, oh, this person, you know, helped me. I need you to contact her. I remember the voice, it spread to the point all the way to New York City.
Oh my
I had
goodness.
people from New York City contacting me saying, oh, my cousin or blah, blah,
Wow.
blah told me that you helped them. Can you help me too? You
Like
know,
professional
and,
case management. Sounds
Yep.
like the Court Foundation.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So I helped out with that, and then it just kind of evolved on its own when a lot of Latina entrepreneurs started coming to me and saying, "Hey, I would love to be a part of what you're doing." And really, it started off from the first event. So I did an event called Latinas of Power and Influence at Medalla University, where we focused on diversity in the workplace while overcoming obstacles.
Okay.
And after that event, I had so many Latinas just coming to me and saying, this is needed. We need to have more conversations like this. We don't have enough conversations like this. And I said, okay, you know, and then the next thing immediately came to mind was STEM. STEM is huge. You know, it's what's out there. It's what, as you see, was evident in the pandemic. Those were the fields that really were developed and that were still thriving, and so I think it was important to talk about that. Let's talk about Latinas. Talk STEM was the topic, and highlighting these Latinas in relatable fields, so that individuals that were either the younger generation or even in our age group that can see relatable faces in spaces that they never thought of,
Yeah.
and so that they're inspired by them to go into those positions, if that's what they chose to do, or just inspired by them, period. And so it kind of evolved on its own. Then I started creating the Cafecito Tempranito con Tyrene events, which are geared to Latina entrepreneurs within the 1 to 3 years in business, and just speaking on different speaking topics. Entrepreneur topic, sorry, and just helping them with their development as an entrepreneur. And then throughout that as well, now we do the Latinas Evolving on the Road edition, which is now then supporting other Latina businesses out in the community by just showing up at their space. They either will know that we're showing up or they don't know until the day before. And we go there as members, or whoever in the community wants to show up when they see that we're going to be there, because we will announce it on social media.
Yeah.
And anybody and everybody can show up, and the point is to then show up and show out for that company by buying their products or services while we're there, and support them in that way. And then at the same time, it puts them in the limelight, because the whole point of it is for everybody that goes is to tag them on social media and show them, hey, we're here in a group, we're here supporting this company. This is a company that's thriving or that just started and that you should know about, that's in your area.
I love
That's
that.
dope. That's dope.
Yeah.
I said, you know, one of the questions that I have for you is, when we talk about entrepreneurship, it's a challenge for some people to think about becoming an entrepreneur, or you know, or even a business owner, because they don't actually equate to each other. But is this something that, well, you know, I know your brother, Josh. Am I allowed to say his name?
Yeah, sure.
Shout out, Josh.
He's super dope individual, very smart, very business minded. Like, and he was young, like a lot younger than I am.
I think when you and I met was
Yeah.
probably around 2005, 2006, around that time. Yeah.
And he it just amazed me on the things that he thought of at the age. He was doing a production site. I was helping him create the site. He was a producer and doing things. I think it was No Whack Rappers Allowed or something.
Yeah,
Like
I remember that.
that.
Yeah.
So, but
He used to work out
you
of
know,
my mom's attic.
yeah, exactly. I went up there. I was like, yo, this is dope, man. This is dope.
And I want to say his colors were like black and red too
Yeah,
around that time.
yeah.
Oh,
Black
now I
and
know
red
what
is
your
dope.
muse was.
But is that something that was taught in your household to be an entrepreneur, or is it something that, you know, you had a role model that you know, followed or, you know, looked up to?
Yeah, I know that my grandfather from my mom's side was an entrepreneur. I know he owned his own business. I remember meeting him as a child, but he didn't make it too far in age. I think he died when I was about 5 years old, so Joshua didn't get to meet him. But clearly it stemmed down the bloodline of the entrepreneur spirit. For me, I think it was more of it was just embedded in me. It's something that started at a young age. I just remember our first year when we moved here to Buffalo. We moved to live on Grant Street, right across the street from Gershels and Sons. And my mom used to make. Now my mom does have the creative spirit, right? So she was always about creating things and making things for the house, which that's the part I don't have. I don't have that creative part where she can look at her room and she'll say, "Oh, you could put this and that."
Yeah, you're a good graphic designer. I've seen the stuff that you
so that I can do. Entrepreneur stuff I can do, but you put me in the house with decorating stuff.
Right. Yeah, I'm not.
I have to look at a magazine or Amazon or something.
Pinterest.
I have to look at the picture or the Pinterest, and then once I see the idea, then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna replicate that.
Yeah, I can do that too. I can do that too.
But to like see it, she has the vision for things like that. So at that time, she was very creative with creating these little magnets that she would just create for us in the house, or sometimes she would create these dried flower bouquets for families as a gift to them for somebody for their birthday and so forth. So she used to create these little magnets and put in our on our refrigerator. And I remember one time telling her, you could sell these, and taking the Polaroid camera and taking pictures of all the little ones that she had. And I took all the Polaroid pictures, and I took a notebook and a pen with me. And back then I had this friend who I had just made friends with her across the street. And I said, come with me. And we went down the street, down Grant Street. That's when Video Factory was there and all these things. And I think Woolworth probably was over there. I'm not sure. Wow. But we went all in Grant Street. We got a few orders in, and I came back and I told my mom, I was like, I got all these orders in. And she's like, oh my God, what? I was like, I didn't think you're going to be able to do this. And so she made all of them. I went back, delivered within a few days time period. And I think I made it around $50 to $60. And I remember her letting me keep the money. And it just happened to be that her birthday was around that time. So it felt great that I now had money to buy my mom something. So I remember ordering her a cake and flowers and balloons and all this stuff. And I spent the money right back on her.
Yeah, you found your motivation.
But that was my first, really, entrepreneur spirit. And I didn't even think about that until recently when I was talking to somebody about kind of the same question that they had for me. And I was just like, you know what? It goes back to that time period, around that time that I really started there.
That's dope.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that is. I love that. And don't you feel like too, it's like embedded in our culture too? Yes. Like there's always like a patela lady or a limbe lady or someone selling pastelillos out of their house.
Yeah. I grew up in the Bronx, and I mean, thinking about it, I believe that my first experience or just knowing most of the people that own businesses in the Bronx were Latin, the Latin descent. I don't know. Are you supposed to say Latinx? Somebody told me Latinx or
it keeps changing at this point. I've lost track
We're
myself.
Okay, you can call us Latinas. So
Latinas,
I guess it depends
and
on
Latinos
person.
for guys. Is that
Yeah,
Latinos.
Okay, all right. So
You're good. You're good.
I don't want to get canceled. I'm just trying to be.
I canceled you a long time ago.
Okay, all right.
You're fine.
So but with the bodegas and the little icy guy,
the piraguas.
It was always.
So
I mean, that's crazy that thinking about it now, but I believe that entrepreneurship is a gene. I wonder if there's an entrepreneurship chromosome that people have, and it's like because if it is, I got it. They could study me. But I think that it is definitely something also that you learn. My father was, he owned his own private practice, and I saw the opportunities there. And then also my grandfather was into real estate, and I didn't know a lot about that. But I do know now he was. So I think that you're right. It's something that probably is passed down, but that's also not to discourage people that think, hey, I don't have anybody in my family ever did it, but I want to do it. Like I would say, go out. Like it really is trying to find a way to do it, right? And knowing that anybody could be an entrepreneur. We were talking about you were born in Puerto Rico.
Yep, born in Puerto Rico.
And I believe I was saying in another podcast that not the one that we're redoing right now.
Oh my God, I can't with you.
I'm just saying we're not redoing this podcast. This is not a second version.
No.
But in another podcast that a lot of times people that come to this country from other countries have that entrepreneurial gene or desire to start their own business. I wonder if that's by design or if that's because of, you know, the social construct that you know, most people, especially people of color, are not taught that they can own or they can do, you know, create their own space. You know what I mean? So we have communities full of people of color with other people that are not those, you know, the ethnicities of that. You know, I'm just trying to be politically correct, but anyway, we have people that open businesses in other communities, and several people in that community open the businesses. So what you're doing is super important. I know it's important for the Latino population, the Latin population. Can I say that?
Yeah.
The Hispanic. I heard Hispanic was wrong, so I don't know. I you know, it's, you can't stay up on this, but anyway, you guys know that. I heard that. I lost track now because I'm thinking.
It's fine. We know your heart, so you can
okay.
you can use Hispanic.
All right, so the Hispanic population. But I think that it's important, right? But not just I think it's important for all people of color, right? And I've been inspired by the things that you were doing, and I think we talked on the phone about some of your ideas. And I was like, I want to be a part of it. Do I have to learn Spanish? What do I want to do? How do I get? Because I think that what you're doing is awesome, and I think that other cultures need what you're doing for them. So maybe you have a business in helping other cultures, you know, bring those. There you go, my
already giving me more things to do.
We can put this together. Like, hey, let's do it.
Absolutely.
That's true.
I think it's true, right? And so you know, and like in our culture in Puerto Rico, we used to have the pickup truck drivers walking around or driving around the streets with a loudspeaker in their hand, a megaphone, and saying, "Oh, se vende coco. We selling coconuts."
That's the commercial. That was the local commercial. So like right now on Jefferson out here, Tyrene would take a pickup truck, a subwoofer, and be like, Latinas Evolving, come and visit our cafecito time. And that would be like the local commercial.
That was our marketing. Yeah.
That's crazy.
That was the marketing back then.
So being able to put yourself out there, I feel like, and that's the hardest part. I feel like that fear of failure, or, you know, having that like risk taker mentality, because no one wants to fail, right? And, you know, in learning from those failures, like, how do you feel about failure? Like, what is your philosophy with that?
I don't think you necessarily fail. I think you learn what the lesson was, and you get right back up, and you figure it out.
So failure is not even a thing.
I think it's I think it's you learn from whatever that situation was, whatever the project was, whatever the relationship was. You learn from it. You say, okay, you take a moment to reflect, and then, how could I do this better? Or how can I do this differently second time around? And why not put yourself again, do it,
There's very few people that have started and got it right the first time. You know what I mean? The richest people in the world have went through bankruptcy and different options to get them back up. I believe that you don't fail unless you quit. When you quit is when you fail, right? Because when you stop, right? So that's definitely I'm in agreement with that. Let me ask you a question. Where's your office located, or where?
So right now it's just mobile. It's just me doing
Okay.
Online, digital. And then we just try to support throughout the community. So right now, like the last Cafecito Tempranito events were held at Sweet M's on Tonawanda Street, or in Tonawanda, I should say. It's on Trenton Street. Amazing little coffee shop that sells little Hispanic dessert dishes, as well as regular dessert dishes and breakfast.
We gotta get sponsorship.
Yep.
No, I know. I was thinking about. I just want to support. Like her shop is dope.
Yeah, it's beautiful space.
For our podcast, we gotta get sponsorship when we say
to.
your name. Send us a check.
Oh man, I'm about to start saying a few.
Send us a check when you say your name.
Get in trouble. But no, I did end up going after, because I didn't get to make the event that you held. And I was so impressed. It's just super cute. The ambiance,
Yes.
the desserts were delicious.
Yeah, and she herself has just a beautiful aura about
Yeah,
herself,
she's
great
so good.
energy and beautiful person. And her story alone is beautiful, right? Like, she's only been in Buffalo for 5 years.
Wow.
She came here after Hurricane Maria from Puerto Rico.
Wow.
And I'm assuming she was kind of doing these type of things over there too, and then she came over here, and then it just flourished from there. And I think it's because, you know, when you live in other countries, making a point about what you were talking about coming from other countries, is that a place like Puerto Rico, it's hard. It's hard to do things legit, right? Because of the amount of paperwork then in Puerto Rico would take, even though Puerto Rico is a part of the United States, it's still its own entity, right? So they do things differently than we do in the United States. The United States makes it a little bit easier and it's more organized in that way. So that way it is easier because of it. So I'm sure for her, it just became a little bit easier that way. And you may have a lot of support for individuals and so forth, that you may not have in Puerto Rico. I don't know. Things have changed over there. So I don't know how much it has changed, but I know a lot of things are still, old school ways. Like example, the unemployment. I know that's something that our process is way faster than their process. They're still on paper, things that you have to go and turn in order to get that done. So, that could be a reason why a lot of individuals, when they come here, then it's easier they see how much easier it is for them to start their business in a legit way and where they can get themselves out there and they begin it.
Right.
But then there's those who are fearful, right, of starting their own business or getting their own ways. Or
just a language barrier. Like I know a lot of my family that has come from Puerto Rico, they could be engineers. There's a lot of engineers that come out of Puerto Rico, a lot of computer scientists, a lot of teachers, but it's that comfortability. They don't feel comfortable, speaking English or, putting themselves out there because of that language barrier. Yeah. So that was good that, you said, you recognize that and you would be that person to kind of like help them get into the workforce because that's needed.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is definitely needed.
And it's important for those jobs too, then to have representation for individuals like that. For individuals that predominantly speak Spanish, they should have individuals who are bilingual to help them, guide them through that process. More ESL programs are definitely needed. But I think it's also important for individuals to also not count on everybody else, right? We have Google University, we have YouTube University, we have ChatGPT, we have so many things in our hands, literally in our hands, in our cell phones. We have the internet right at our disposal. We have the resources. How are you using that to your advantage is up to you. You can either use it to watch the drama going on social media, or you could use it to your benefit and say, okay, that same social media, I'm going to follow all these individuals who are actually doing something in the world. I'm going to follow CJ Banks. I'm going to follow Shanna. I'm going to follow Tyrene. I'm going to follow all the other individuals who are actually doing something in this world. And I want to be inspired by them. So I want to hear everything they got to say. I want to follow Brene Brown and Oprah Winfrey and all these other individuals, Eva Longoria, the Hot Cheetos guy who just, who started Hot Cheetos.
Best story.
But follow those individuals and see how they made it. What did they do? And be inspired by those individuals and then do something with that instead of following the drama that's not doing nothing for you. It's not feeding nothing to your soul.
It's just a distraction, right?
Yes, it's just all
the devil distracts.
So if you were, if someone was sitting in front of you that wanted to, start a company or had an idea, what would be their first step? What would you say their first step is?
I think identifying what is that idea, right? Identifying what that idea is, what is their strength within that idea, and then implementing something out of that. So whether it's figuring out what the name of the company is, what the mission of the company is, and how do they want to begin that, whether it's just grassroots, things that they want to focus on, or do they have the funds to fully just start the whole shebang, get a website, get everything done. So it all depends on what level they are as an entrepreneur. But I would just say really focus in on what is the product or service that you're selling. Figure out why, because I think your why is what's going to drive you.
Yeah, like
your
story.
Why, your why is why you're doing this, what your story is, and what is your legacy. What you're going to leave from that. I think that's what really then inspires you to really go all full on with your company, because if you don't really know what that why is, you can easily get lost into that. If you're following money, That's not going to, it's going to a certain extent. And then it's going to get to a point where you're like, what am I doing this for?
Right.
The money's not keeping me happy. You
Right.
know, the money's only gotten me into trouble, or it's gotten me into bad toxic relationships, or, you know, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But when there's a why, the money is going to come with it, right?
Right.
That automatically is just going to come for you because you are focusing on your why.
I always say, if you're chasing money, that means it's running away from you.
He does always say
Right.
that.
I
Yeah,
always say
that's
that.
true.
Like I do not like the saying, you know, I'm a paper chaser, or I'm chasing money. Like, if you're chasing money, that means it's going away from you. You should be receiving money, right? And that's exactly what you're talking about, is the passion that makes you, you know, good at what you do. And I try to cultivate that in a lot of the individuals that, you know, I work with, to say, okay, what is it that you're really great at, or that you want to be really great at, or that you like, right? And then how do you turn that into $1? You know, how do you turn it into $10, then double that, then triple that, you know what I mean? And I think that it's important for people to know that you don't have to have $1 million to start a business. I started my business by selling my Xbox 360 for $150, and I sold it to my father, by the way, because he was not giving me
I
money.
feel like that doesn't count.
No, because he wouldn't give me the money.
Did he play
That was
the
a way
Xbox?
to.
He didn't even play the Xbox, but he just, I
He
mean,
said, no, if you want to start your business, I need
Exactly.
to see that you're serious about this.
Exactly.
So,
I love
and
that.
I like
and
that,
he
yeah.
still has the Xbox 360.
yeah.
Oh my
sitting on his,
goodness.
he
Yeah.
doesn't get
This
rid
is
of anything.
proof. No, just
But
Yeah.
but yeah, I sold it and got my first screen printing machine, a used one, for $150, and that's
okay.
how I started my company.
Yeah.
I love
And-
that.
And now I have, you know, a pretty significant, you know, company as far as screen printing. So I feel like there's always a way, right? All you have to do is have the passion. All you have to do is have the desire.
Yeah.
I think that, but for our communities, the one thing that we don't have in control of ourselves individually is the I'm heard noise in my computer. I just want to make sure we're good. Okay, we're good.
Okay.
One thing that we don't have control over ourselves is like access to you know, certain types of support, like financial support. And I think it's important. I'm gonna have a gentleman here from IC Success.
Matt.
I'm gonna ask Matt to come in and be on the podcast, because he's got a program where he's looking to support individuals, entrepreneurs that have already had companies. But you know, he also has that startup IC Success. So he's thinking about, I think maybe I shouldn't say it because I don't know if it's finalized, but so I want to have him come on and talk about that. What would you say if you started you started your company? How do you move to that next level? How do you think someone, let's say in the Hispanic, you know, population, because I know that's your focus, how can they go about moving to that next level, growing bigger? You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
I agree, because that's where a lot of people find themselves, is they started the business, they're able to sustain it enough to like where they can control it or even be the employee and the employer, but they want to hire other people, they want to see it grow. So where would someone go next?
Yeah. I think obviously it depends on everybody's situation.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of grant opportunities out there and business loan opportunities out there. I know Weedy is one that, you know, has grant opportunities for entrepreneurs, as well as there's a lot of banks or just a lot of investors out there. They're looking for individuals to invest into and so forth, or to just give grants to. So it's really looking for those grants. Make sure you're networking. Make sure you are putting yourself out there in a situation where you're getting to know and building those relationships. And then identify what is it that you need to grow that business, right? So it can be somebody with, let's say, a bakery, you know, and that person knows that they can probably franchise that place because it's going so well.
Okay.
Then identifying a mentor maybe that can help them, a loan, whatever the case may be. Make sure they have that business plan created, so that then they can go to the proper individuals that can help them level
And
up
with
that
like
business.
Latinas Evolving, is that something you would help them with? Like, do you help them like create that business plan or pitch deck or whatever they need?
I usually resource them out. I resource
Okay.
them out. So there's in places like, I know Buffalo State has a great business entrepreneur program,
Oh, okay.
as well as the Beverly Gray Center has opportunities there. The Small Business Association has their program and so forth. But if they do speak Spanish and they don't feel, or they can't find anybody that they feel comfortable going to, then I will guide them and try to be that middle person for them.
Oh, okay.
And guide them for sure.
So you're really
Yeah.
like coaching them and then linking them to the appropriate
Yes.
services.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love that. That's really
So
good.
you have kids, right? You have
Two boys,
Two
yeah.
boys. Two boys. What if they say, "Hey, I want to be an entrepreneur"?
So the funny thing is that my 18-year-old is already an entrepreneur all by
Okay.
himself. He's been an entrepreneur since he was 16.
Wow.
He learned how to cut hair through his father. His father used to cut hair.
Okay.
And he learned from his father. And then he attends the BOCES program, started his junior year. So now he's on his senior year. So he started cutting hair from our basement. First became a student barber. He first started charging just $5 a cut just to get something out of it. And since then, now he actually works at a barber shop at Village Barber on Main Street in Williamsville.
Okay.
Okay.
So
sponsorship.
check him out. Yeah, Elias Torres.
You owe us money for that shout out.
It's so bad.
So, but yeah, he's been doing very well from himself, and he's looking forward to now graduating this year, so that hopefully he'll have all the credits that he needs to get his
awesome.
master barber license.
That's dope.
And his vision is that he wants to own his own place eventually one day.
Look at that.
That's
I
dope.
wonder where he
Yeah.
got that from.
I have
Yeah.
no idea. I can't believe his
It's
mama.
great, right?
I know, it
must be
really
great
is,
to
like-
have like parents to look up to, and
I know.
well, I know I did. My later part of my life, I had that opportunity to look at somebody that pretty much owned his own business. It was private practice, but he was a psychologist. But it's something that you have to take credit for. You know what I mean? Because you definitely, I seen how he even was proud. I met Elias, I think, at the
Yes, at the Latinas
Latinas
Talk STEM event.
Talk
Yeah.
STEM event, and he was proud. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I think that's awesome.
And that's so my family entrepreneurship story is a little different. So we owned a catering company. It was Caribbean Catering, and we had a Puerto Rican restaurant. But unfortunately, it didn't go well. So I kind of seen like that turmoil, like what entrepreneurship could bring.
Yeah.
So I always kind of was like, oh, I don't think I could do that because I don't want to, sacrifice my family and that work-life balance for that. So, but now as I'm coming up, I'm learning because my dad actually he tried it again and he's doing very well and he's able to put a little bit different of a spirit into it.
Yeah. Here
So-
in Buffalo?
Yeah, so he owns I don't know
Another
if I'm gonna
sponsor.
say it. If I
Go
say
ahead.
it, yeah, Premier
You're gonna
Cigar-
pay this. You're gonna pay for this.
Premier
Sir.
Cigars on Jefferson Avenue.
Oh, okay.
No charge, Pop.
Wait, what is it called again?
Premier Cigars and
That's another
Lounge.
$5. You want to say it again?
No,
Okay.
you're so bad.
I need one cigar.
I'll get you a cigar, girl.
Okay.
Or we should go smoke it.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Cuban cigar.
Yeah, but so I was
CJ
able
wants
to
in.
kind of,
Sponsorship.
Oh my god, I can't with you. So I was, I was seeing it in a different, but now, as I'm getting older, I see that, like you said, like that failure. But I actually learned from, what mistakes they had. They just, maybe weren't ready for it. I feel like if they would have went back in, it would
they have
have,
approached
it would have
things
been a different
differently,
story.
yeah.
So, but the biggest thing that we saw when we were in that situation was. I'm not calling anybody out because it was just the season that we were in, and there's a reason for a season sometimes, and it was the lack of support that we had, and collaboration, and so that's why I love the community that you're able to build with Latinas Evolving because you're already having like this built-in group where there's like-minded individuals that just want to support each other, and they move away from that scarcity mindset. So I love that you're doing that.
Thank you.
And I see
Yeah.
that, I see that in your personality. You just reaching out to me and being like, "What you up to, girl?"
Yeah.
And so keep doing that.
Yeah, I'm trying.
That's
Thank
great.
you. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, Latina. Let me ask you a couple of questions again about, or more questions about Latinas Evolving. Right? When did you start it? You said.
Last March, actually.
Last March.
So the Latinas
And-
Talk STEM event, that actually was the 1 year anniversary.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Mhm.
cool.
The same exact day.
Where do you see it going? Like, let's say 3 years from now, where do
Yeah.
you see it being?
My hope with that is to continue to have Latina Evolving on the road, edition, continue to support that community, but for it to have its own community of those individuals that we're supporting, right? As well as always my hope has always been to have a one-stop shop place, where you're able to provide all these different things to all these Latinas, but not just Latinas, maybe even create a program for Latinos themselves too, and our allies, and
Yes.
being able
Alex.
be able to continue to collaborate and do things that are inclusive, but at the same time making sure that we're giving back to our Latino community, because I feel like a lot of times we can get lost in the mix of everybody else. I feel like a lot of things are very for the Black and white community, and our Latino community gets kind of lost in there, and I don't know if it's because we kind of are blended with both.
That's what I was going to ask you. Do you feel like it's because of the colorism that exists within the community?
Yeah, I think sometimes it could be because of that, because we can fall into either category,
and now they make us pick.
Yeah.
Well,
I shouldn't say us. I don't know.
I
who the
don't know.
us is, but
I
you know what
kind
mean?
of see, like, when things happen in the community for the for the Black community, that it's inclusive, because they always say BIPOC, or people of color, which includes Black and brown people.
Well, you see that more now.
Oh,
Like
okay.
in the last
Okay.
year or two, I would
Yeah.
say this now you're
Okay.
seeing more people of color,
Right.
the BIPOC community and so forth, which
Right.
I completely appreciate. But what I have noticed is that even though it says BIPOC, if you look at for example, if somebody does a panel discussion, do you see that diversity in there? Or are they just having only African American individuals on there? So, and if there is diversity in there, we should probably make it known, right?
Right.
That there
Yeah.
is diversity in that group, because we can't tell based off color.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Hispanics
that's
are-
a very difficult,
Yeah.
conversation to have, just because it could appear that they're African American, but they actually identify as Afro or Afro Latina or
Yeah.
Latino or.
Yeah, when I was growing up in the Bronx, they used to think I was Dominican.
I told
Yeah.
them when I met
Yeah.
him, I was like,
Yeah,
I thought you were
exactly.
My
Dominican.
father was
No,
your
I'm not
color.
Dominican.
Yeah,
My
my dad
father,
is.
yeah.
Yeah.
And when I go to Puerto Rico, I get so tired.
Yeah, it is it's a beautiful thing. It's just a lot it's a lot for people on the outside to digest,
Yes.
because you can't put it in a box.
Yeah.
And that's what everyone's used to doing. You know what I mean? Even when
Yeah.
you fill out an application, but it's not reasonable.
Yeah.
For us, it's more nuanced. And when things are nuanced, sometimes it becomes difficult. When things are difficult, sometimes it's easier just to ignore them, or just be like, we'll
Or
just
just focus
focus
on
on
the
this
ones
one
in the
area.
box.
Yeah, exactly.
So question number 2 is, if you have your company, right? If you had your wish list, right, and you had somebody say, "I can grant you 3 wishes that can help your company grow," what would those 3 wishes be? And if you don't have 3, that's fine. But three top things off the top of your head, that these are the 3 things that I need.
Yeah,
I
I
love
would
that.
say the first thing is the funding for me to be able to do this on my own, to not have a regular day job, right? So that I can just do this full time. That would be the first thing. The second is having the space available to then provide that safe space for these individuals to come and have conversations, whether it's meetings or whether it's gatherings, whatever the case may be, whatever that means for that population. And third is to still have the funding to keep it sustainable, to continue to be able to provide those programs, because I would want to create programs that would make sense for our Latino community to help them be successul.
Yeah, I ask that question a lot to people, because I think it's important for people to know what is it that they need, right? Everybody knows what they want, right? It's easy. I know what I want. I want to be a millionaire. Not me, but
Yeah.
I guess I will. But I'd take it. But most everybody knows what they want, but what they need is sometimes hard to divulge, because number one, people are prideful and they like, oh, I don't need help, I can do this on myself. And then number two, because people are so used to not getting the help that they need, that they just get complacent, and they become like trained fleas, where that whole adage where you put fleas in a jar and put the top on it. and they'll hit the jar for a certain amount of time, and then eventually you could take the top off, and they won't jump any higher, right? Because they're complacent in where they are, or defeated, if you will.
Yeah.
Or they become content.
I think it's important, and even to double click into what you're saying, I think that it's important to even know exactly how much. So if I came to you and said, hey, what do you need? And you say, hey, I need $500,000 that's going to take care of this, and so I think that's important. So for all the people that are watching, I think it's impressive that, number one, you're able to kind of say, hey, this is what I need, and obviously I think a lot of people will have a response that you have, and that's the funding, right? Because we don't get, like, people of color, we don't get a lot of opportunity for loans, right? A lot of people of color, their credit is not that great because they've been struggling their whole lives. So it's a catch-22. Your credit's not great. You can't get a loan because your credit's not great, but you want to get a loan so you could pay your bills and build your company. So,
and let's talk about that a minute, because me working in the financial services world, I've realized that the reason why a lot of individuals in our culture don't have great credit is because we've been taught not in our countries or where we live not to care about credit. Credit was not important to us because you either bought things with cash, or if you don't have it, you don't have it. Credit is not a big deal in Puerto Rico. It's not in other countries as well. It's here in the United States that it's a big deal. It's here that it makes a difference. So when they come here, their whole culture is changed, where they have to realize, and then they have to realize, figure out the dynamics of it all, right? Yeah. So because it's not just, let me get one credit card paid for 6 months and that's it. My credit's at 900 scores. No, there's a whole little political process to that whole thing to get your credit to higher standing, that includes mortgages, it includes cars, includes credit cards, all these different things. And individuals in our culture, they may do it just until they get those things. And then once they get those things, they're like, okay, I'm back to not caring because I already got what I needed. I have my cash. I'm good with the cash.
Why are you calling me out right now?
You feel attacked?
I feel attacked. I'm going to have a little session with you later.
Myself.
Yeah, credit is, to me, credit is a, I don't know, I don't want to say a scam, but like the whole nature of credit is like crazy to me, that people who have good credit are people that don't need credit. Like, that literally is what I was taught when I was being taught about credit later part of my life. Was like, you know what? They want to know you don't need it in order to give it to you, which is crazy, right? So I don't need somebody to give me credit because I have all this money in the bank and I'm good, and I don't have to worry about it, so I'll give you the credit because you got it. Instead of it being like, wait, credit should be for the people that need it, you know what I mean, and should be able to work it off. I understand that there's liability with that, right? Because you got to pay it back. Like, if I had somebody came to me and said, hey, I need studio time, but I need it on credit, and I'm like, do you have a job? They need to know that, right? So I understand it. It's just so hard because you cannot get anywhere in this world, or in this country, I would say, because you brought up a great point, without credit. You have to have credit.
I think the importance of it too, that we need to learn, that I need to learn, that I've learned, is what it means for your family. So like, let's say, I am gonna have really good credit, and then, when your son turns 18 or your daughter, they don't have any credit. So what if I put them on a credit card? Doesn't mean they have to use my credit card.
And that's another tip so I never knew that growing up. That was never something that was taught to my mom growing up. But now me as an adult, I've came to find that out, that you can actually put your child,
put it on your Target card.
You put them on your card. They start helping build their credit. That way, by the time they're out of high school, they've already built some kind of credit. Where they probably have been known this for the longest. But we were never taught.
This is all secret.
So we're not taught.
Well, some parents open cards in the kid's name.
They
put themselves on their kids' credit, but just
that's a whole nother. But no, and that does sometimes systematically happen because we struggle, and that did happen to some kids. But that's what I've learned. Like, sometimes you need a good cosigner. So like, can you be that stable person for your kids? So that's where my credit goals are. Because otherwise, I think, much like you, CJ, where I'm like, this is just, I'm never gonna find it.
The challenge is that, like, it's you know it also would hurt the child if you're not paying
Oh yeah,
your
you have
credit
to
card.
be.
So your credit has to be good. But here's a gem that I will drop. Business credit is a whole nother thing, right? So if you have the ability to open your business, like you got to get a DUNS number. I'm learning more and more about those things, and build your business credit. Now you can't open your business and then automatically get it. Well, you can probably get it like a starter credit card or whatever for your business, which is if you have an LLC or a corporation, it's not attached to you, right? In some cases, they might need you a personal backup for it, but there are ways to build your credit. The one thing that I tell people is when you open your business, don't look to claim a loss. That is something that a lot of people make the mistake. Oh, well, the government allows you to claim a loss for 3 years or 6 years or whatever the case may be. And every time and I have a few businesses, every time I open my business, I make sure that I don't claim a loss, because that's what's your business credit. Like, I was able to, and I tell you, my credit was horrible when I first opened my first business, because I was just so in like I was into opening a business, and when you have a business, times could be crazy, right? You can make money, but when I opened my business and I claimed a positive income, and I was honest with what I had for I think 3 years, I went into the car dealership and and actually bought a car under my business name, and I had like a 0.6 interest rate.
Wow.
Like literally, he was like ran my business credit and was like, "What do you want?" And so I bought the car right off the showroom floor. Now, if it was my personal credit, I probably wouldn't have been able to do it. You know what I mean? Because you have to have like really good credit to have an interest rate that way. So having a business is an opportunity, but again, you don't want to abuse that either, right? Credit is like, I think, the only way that you can succeed in this country at a certain, above a certain level, is to be able to have credit. So that's something that I know that you talk about in Latinas, evolving, and I think that's super important to share.
Yeah, and I brought up that conversation because it's important and I'm sure that they are more aware of it now, but it's important for these banks to understand the cultures. It's not just the United States and what they've created, but I think they're realizing that they need to change the narrative. So you have BIPOC communities who are opening up their own banks, like there's Greenwood Bank that's focused on the Black community or BIPOC community, and they're all about like saying, okay, we need to realize that this is not how we function in our culture. This is not, credit is not a huge thing for us. So being able to give us the opportunities that other individuals also have, without having to worry about the credit part. Because sometimes we just go through things in life,
Right.
Sometimes I remember at one point as a single parent, I was living on paycheck to paycheck. And when you're living on paycheck to paycheck, your priorities are going to be your priorities. Your credit card is not going to be your priority.
Right.
That credit card is probably going to get $10 out of it, but you're going to provide food in the house. You're going to make sure that the rent is paid for, that the car payment's paid for, and that your lights are on and your gas is on before anything else.
Right.
Because that is the priorities to take care of your family. The credit, at the end of the day, as we know, that can be played with. You may not be good with your credit for 2 years. Yeah, your credit goes down, but in 2 years, then all of a sudden you start paying off all your stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of you rebuilding it. But your family doesn't have that opportunity. You leaving them with no food or whatever the case may be. We don't have that opportunity to not be able to provide for them.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's circling back to like you said, the representation in the organizations. That's why it matters so much. So leave us with a little nugget. What is your philosophy?
Be resourceful. Huge be resourceful. My quote has always been for a time now, that focus on your end result. Identify what that is, right? Identify what is your end result, whether it's in life, whether it's in a relationship, whether it's in a career goal, whatever the case may be, and work your way backwards. How are you going to get there? You know, put those goals out, set them out, whether your short-term goals to get to your bigger goals. But if I'm envisioning that I want to own my house and that house has to be a 5-bedroom house, and, you know, identify, put it into detail, be specific about that goal, and then work your way from there up to this given time. And from this present moment, how are you going to get to that point? And what is that timeline like? So I would say is that always stay focused on your end result, even in the education part, and in that area as well, is that you learn something every day. Don't be opposed to not learning, because you can learn something every day. You could be a person who has a master's degree or whatever the case may be, but you can learn something every single day, because there's a lot of individuals out there that are book smart but not necessarily street smart. Right? And then we have those who are street smart, but then we don't have the book smarts, and so there's a balance of both worlds that I think is very important.
So good. She'll be my new life coach.
Yeah.
So good.
Every time we have somebody, you want them to be your life coach.
I'm gonna have a lot of life coaches.
Jeez.
All right.
Okay.
I do want to say there's an event coming up now in October. So Gitana is a new production company that has been doing these live music events. Marta Aracelis is actually the owner of it. Her vision in bringing these live cultural Afro-Caribbean music sounds to life. They just had one this past weekend. It was Afro-Cuban rhythm, beautiful. And the next one's on October, and I'm actually going to be the MC for this one.
Okay.
Wow.
So I want you both to come and check it out.
Yeah, where is it?
We're waiting to find out on the venue and to finalize the date. So as
Okay.
soon as we finalize that information, I will let you know. But the singer is actually going to be Marta Aracelis herself, the owner of the company.
wow.
It's been a while for her that she's come up, but she has an extremely beautiful voice. And
Gotta
I
get it
can't
in the
wait.
studio. Get it in the
Absolutely.
studio.
Oh, that'd be cool. That'd be dope.
Yeah. So anything. So number one, I always want to make sure that you that people have the opportunity to share how to reach you.
Yes.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Social media pages under Latinas Evolving. I think Instagram is Latinas_Evolving, and Facebook is just Latinas Evolving, as well as LinkedIn. And then website is www.latinasevolving.com. Pretty simple, to the point.
Yep.
And we're on there representing anything on there, and we're all about promoting other individuals, other Latinas here in Western New York doing their thing. I also have an event, not an event, but for Hispanic Heritage Month is starting just September 15th, just another week and a half away. So Miss Shiana, can I say it? She's going to be one of our top 15 individuals that we're going to be highlighting for Hispanic Heritage Month.
I appreciate
as
it.
a Latina entrepreneur representing Corp. And so that will be showcased between October 1st and October 15th, which is the last 15 days of Hispanic Heritage Month.
Super excited about that. I know. I get to get my picture taken.
Yeah. Super excited.
You can't come.
No.
I can't come. No. I'm gonna throw
He's going to be in the background.
I'm gonna throw tomatoes.
Don't be a hater.
So you said I can't come.
I'm just kidding.
Okay.
No, I was very honored. Thank you for that.
Yeah, of course.
I'm excited for you. Do you have any final words you want to share, or?
I'm a fan. She knows that, and I just wanted to know like what her philosophy was. But I feel like we really got to know you. But we definitely have to have you on again. You're super fun.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Number 6.
Yeah.
Every 3.
Every 3 episodes.
Every three
episodes.
Yeah.
I would love to bring some of the Latina evolving members too. Maybe we can bring 2 or 3 at the same time and have a
Gotta figure out how to set up the mics.
Yeah, I was gonna say we need one more. Do you think we can do one more?
I have another mic and another camera.
So we can have up to 4 people?
Yeah.
Okay,
we
that's
can
good to
have
know.
more people if we
cool
want. We
to
can have a
have
group
them
of people behind us. Just move the table.
That'd be too
Anyway,
much.
we'll talk about that.
Yes.
This is the Hype Podcast. And
Helping you proclaim excellence.
Here we go. She always jumps in on my ending. You got to wait till I'm done.
Okay. I get excited.
This is, I got to do this. Okay. This is the Hype Podcast, and I am your host, CJ Banks.
And Shayna Van Dyne, and we're helping you proclaim excellence. And our guest was Tyrene Tapia.
Yes. Tyrene Tapia, and I am so excited you're here. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
And we will see you again.
Yes.
See you doing big things.
Absolutely.
And
make sure to
hit her
follow
up on
my
social
girl.
media, follow up, and don't forget to follow us too.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. They're
Share
doing
this.
amazing things.
All right.
All right.
Podcast.
Thank you.
We out.
Bye.
More money, more problems.
Oh gosh.
I told you I got to do that.